Hello, hello. Welcome to Destination Unknown podcast with Doreen. This is Doreen, and today's topic is relationships. And I have two guests. I have Courtney and Mr. Steven. All right, Courtney, introduce yourself.
Hi there. My name's Courtney. I'm 29. I don't mind about sharing my age or anything. I've been married coming up on a year now. I have a 6-year-old who turns 7 in December. I like doing art, and right now I'm just kind of a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
Just doing that. And
You're also a model, right?
Yes. Yeah, I do some modeling. I've actually been modeling for about 11 years now.
11 years? Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah.
So we need to learn from you.
I've been in and out on breaks and stuff here and there. After like being a new mom and stuff, I took a break and then came back to the community and have been in different communities and stuff like that. So yeah, it's been interesting, that's for sure.
That's awesome. Well, it's good to have you.
Thank you.
And then you, Steven?
My name is Steven. I'm 32, single. I work from home. I do a lot of finance. I lived out here and on the East Coast part-time, so I've had a lot of exposure to different stuff.
Yeah. Also, what are you doing? Are you also tapping into what? Modeling.
And Doreen over here is trying to get me to tap into modeling as well.
That's
Walking
good. There's
is
not as many guys, honestly.
Walking has never been so stressful. I walk everywhere, but trying to do one of those walks is tricky.
Oh, you're fine. You do well.
I've never done runway, so I commend you if you've done it, because it is a beast within its own.
It's just like in front of judges, I'm like, I walk from my car to home to the gym, and then you get me in front of people. I'm like,
you like forget how to walk.
Yeah.
That's so true.
No, I get that.
You do get nervous when you start walking.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what? I should have done this and this and this. And
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, but it's okay. You're just starting, and you already what? You already got what? A casting.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yes, I did.
All right, so we're tapping into relationships. We're gonna start with you, Courtney.
Okay.
What's your relationship status right now?
I'm married.
You are married,
Yes,
okay. How long have you? You said 1 year, right?
Yes, yeah,
Yes.
we got married last year on Halloween.
How long were you guys together before?
About 2.5 years before we got married, but we also dated when I was in college and then broke up for about 5 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you were connected again.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that.
So we originally met at the library in Prescott. So we met at the library and then...
That is so cute.
Kind of
Is
went
this
on
where I
from
need to
there.
go? To the library to meet a guy?
Yeah. We were both there to use the internet though, so just kind of, I was a broke college student and he was figuring his life out, and
Yeah.
we met at the library, so it was kind of funny.
That is super cute though.
Yeah.
That's a good place to say like you met somebody.
Mhm.
Like what?
Yeah.
That's better than saying I met somebody at the club. Like
Yeah, libraries are good. At least you know you got someone that can read.
Yeah, that's true, that's true. So yeah, we started dating back when I was 19, and we were kind of off and on because I had a lot of borderline personality tendencies that came forward when I was 19, and just kind of had to figure out how to cope with that. And usually when you do have that personality disorder, you're more likely to be a cheater. So I did cheat on him, and he did drugs about it, and then he cheated on me, and it was a mess. And so we did break up after like being off and on for 3 years. We went no contact for 5 years.
Wow.
He's been sober now for 7 years, and he works in addiction recovery and helps a lot of people stay sober. So it was like after 5 years, I was already divorced and married and then divorced at that point with somebody else, and I had just gone through my Facebook list of people I had blocked, and I was like, oh, I don't need to have people, because I'll go through and just be like, I don't feel anything anymore about it, so I'll unblock them. And he noticed that, so he was just like, well, I noticed, one, that I wasn't blocked anymore, and two, that your last name was your maiden name again. So he, slid into my DMs, and it was funny because everyone's like, oh, he just, slid in, you're right back on it. But no, he slid in and was like, I want to make amends with you, and I want to apologize for the last conversation we had, because we both said messed up things. It was a bad breakup, and it meant a lot because I'd never really had somebody who affected me that much later come back and apologize for their part in the situation, and I apologize for my piece too. And we both really worked through a lot of stuff on our own and were able to come back together and have like a really healthy relationship this time around.
That's amazing.
So,
I love to hear that story, especially that he like contacted you to make amends with you. Like that takes growth, because like especially when it's been like 5 years, like after 5 years you're like, okay, well, that the expiration of like apologies has already expired. I don't need to apologize to this person, but the fact that he came at you and
still did it.
It's amazing.
Yeah, after all that time, because he just, you know, he said some very hurtful things, and so did I, but like the fact that he was able to just be like, you know, I don't really want anything out of it, but I always have felt bad, and you know, that is part of the recovery process, is making amends. And it was always on his mind, but since I was blocked, or like I had blocked him, he never had that opportunity, and once he saw he could, he just really wanted to just clear it up, because you know, living in sobriety, he wanted to keep living that authentic self, and if he could make that amend, he wanted to be able to do that to move forward. And then it lucked out that we just rekindled everything.
Oh, I love that. How are you guys doing right now?
We're really great. He's actually with my friend. She's off to the side where you can't see her, but we exchanged partners this weekend. So my husband's with her husband, and she came with me.
Oh, okay.
So she
At first I was like, wait, why you exchange partners?
I thought,
your husband went to her, and then
well, we have a thing for gingers, obviously, but. No, they're business partners as well, so they work in addiction treatment together, and they're business partners. So he went there for business this weekend, and I was like, well, since you're there, send her out. So now she's here, and we're doing some girl stuff this weekend.
Oh, I love it. And she's so pretty. You guys are all pretty.
So pretty. But it's been really cool, because, I mean, I met you at a photo shoot last weekend, and same with him. And so he's branched out into the X-Stacks, which is the stackable cartridge company. So he's part owner on that as well.
Yeah.
And, you know, marijuana or cannabis does a lot to, like, help people.
Yeah,
like,
it does,
really help them, especially with addiction. And a lot of people don't realize that, because, like, overdose rates went down by 40% once it started getting legalized in a lot of states. Like in Washington, it was 40% of like overdose rates going down. And my husband's like, if I could do that, then I would do it. But there's nothing that he can say or do or treatment that will make that number go down. So, you know, marijuana, weed, cannabis made that happen. And so it's been really cool to watch that, and how it can go hand in hand with treatment and sobriety and using cannabis. So it's very interesting.
I love to hear that, and I'm glad that your husband like went through like sobriety and stuff like that. Right now I'm trying to be sober too and not drink anymore.
It could be life-changing. Definitely.
It is. I mean, I already feel good just for having like a few weeks of like not drinking. I'm like, let's see if I can keep it up.
Well, it sounds like you're doing good.
People be stressing me out. I'm like, I need to drink around y'all.
Have you ever tried lavender pills?
What is that?
It's like, you can buy them on Amazon, and you just type in Calm Aid. It's not sponsored, but yeah, you type in Calm Aid, and it's a lavender pill, and it's just essential oils in a pill form. You take it, and it's just lavender. It helps you relax.
Okay.
If you, like, I have a hard time staying asleep. I have no problem falling asleep, and melatonin does nothing, because it helps you fall asleep and not stay asleep. So if I take a couple of lavender pills, it just relaxes you.
Okay.
And then the only downside is you'll get mad lavender burps. So it's just like you burp, and it's like this really intense.
I don't know if I want like burps to like smell like lavender.
So give or take, but very relaxing if you are trying to do something to help relax and maybe not drink as much. But I do drink myself.
It's okay. And then you, Steven, what's your like relationship like experience? How has it been for you?
I'll start it off that if any exes feel like they need to apologize and they can't send me a message, Cash App works. I take that as apology.
You're so stupid.
No, I'm playing. I've had some good relationship experiences.
Yeah.
You know, it's been. I feel like it's tough these days. Social media ruins a lot of stuff.
It does. Yeah.
And communication's kind of dead. People don't sit and talk anymore. So
that's so true.
It's like you get caught up in an idea that's not real from something that you're constantly force-fed. I don't love social media. You're the first one to know that. She's been on me, you got to make an Instagram for this, you got to make an Instagram, you got to do this. I'm like, I don't even want one.
Yeah.
But I've had a lot of good experiences where it's shown growth and kind of, you know, I feel like there's two types of relationships where and I know I'm gonna get jumped on when I say this. One is like a true relationship where you want it to work, where it's a partnership, and not so much financially, but it needs to be mentally and kind of financially a partnership where it's my job would be to build you up if we're in a relationship, right?
Yeah.
Like whatever, and that's not so much on a financial stance. It's mentally, it's
Yeah.
emotionally, physically. Like that's my job, and it should be vice versa.
Vice
Like we're not
versa,
gonna
yeah.
have the same interests, but it's like, hey, if you love, it could be anything random, nail colors or something like that. It'd be
Yeah.
like, all right, I'm gonna take time out of my day to learn about this, and then chop it up with you, and we kind of build that way. Maybe that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
I have no interest in nail color, like you know. So that's one type of relationship where it's very much a partnership the whole way around.
Yeah.
More so these days, you find transactional relationships where it's like, you know, I could go out and we could go out and have a great time, with pretty much no commitment between us, very little communication, and cool, I'll splurge on dinner, might buy some shoes, whatever it is, and it's transactional at that point where
Oh, okay.
there's really no feelings involved, no emotions, like it's all fun. But I feel like that's where the relationships have kind of gone these days, and to find this one is rare, you know. So I think in my life I've definitely had some relationships that have been on the left side of that, where everyone kind of knew what was going on. And it's like if I'm going through it, or if you're going through it, like I'm not the person to do that with. And other times I've very much been on the other side. You know,
Have you had a relationship where you felt like it was a partnership?
I have.
Yeah.
I have.
How long was that for?
About 3 years.
3 years, okay.
So that was good. It taught me a lot about myself. That was my first real serious relationship. So it was at a time where I was in a place of kind of growing. Like we definitely had our growing pains for sure.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of that, if you walk away kind of knowing where your strengths and weaknesses lie, you know, what your
That's
where
very
your
true.
mindset is, where someone else's mindset kind of needs to be to match yours.
Would you say that was your first love?
Yeah, for sure.
So, okay, first love. Is that the only love you've had?
I mean, like I tell my dogs I love them. You know.
Is it
Aye,
No,
aye,
like
the one that got away?
in terms of
maybe.
Yeah, is she? Would you consider her like as one who got away?
I don't know about got away. I think people will take different paths, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes things are not meant to be forever.
Or you never know. You might be like
Maybe-
her,
yeah,
like
maybe like Courtney,
Maybe
it's a
5
good
years
person
later.
5 years later, yeah,
Right?
that's so true.
She'll see this and slide into your cash app.
Right? I'd be cool with that. Sorry is 5 cash apps away. No. No, she was definitely the first person that I told you that was, you know, outside of my family that, you know, I love you. And that was a big step for me. Like saying that for the first time,
Yeah.
I was nervous, and I've been through a lot of things in my life, and that was one of the few things that made me like hold up. And I'll always have love for her.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I don't want to see anything happen to her.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
It's like there's really no hard feelings on my end, but it's just like we were on very divergent paths at the end. So,
Yes,
you know.
that was my first marriage.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you see yourself getting married, Steven?
To the right person, sure.
To the right person, yeah.
I'm not like a perpetual. I don't want to be a perpetual bachelor forever. I think there's a lot that comes from having a partner.
Mm-hmm.
But do you have a plan of like I need to be married by this
Oh,
age,
no.
or like are you so
Not
Like
at
a
all.
10-year plan.
You're in
with my
Aquarius.
parents.
Of course you don't care about that. It's just like there's no age, like there's no limit for us. We just do whatever we want.
Oh yeah. Well, I am my husband's first wife, and I mean he's 43 right now, and I'm 29. So
Oh, wow.
there is a 13-year age difference, and a lot of people are like, "Oh, that's strange," but I'm like, well, I really had to like seek him out and explain to him finally after 6 months of hanging out every single day. I'm like, "Hey, I really like you, and can this be anything?" And he's like, "Oh, I didn't realize," because he just never thought, you know, that someone. Because at the time he was 32 and I was 19, so
Oh,
he's
he
like,
didn't think that somebody that young would
would
want
be
to
attracted to
okay,
him. Yeah, so it really took me like pursuing him to like get him to understand it at all.
You're talking about your
So-
first marriage, right?
I kind of mixed it in there. So with Chris, who is my husband now, when I was 19, I met him when he was 32. So like we had that age difference back then, and
Oh,
I
okay.
pursued him. But then in my first marriage, because I had made that comment, we had grown apart, like he was saying with his first love, that you know they kind of grew apart, and there's no hard feelings necessarily.
Yeah.
It just didn't really work out, and we moved our separate ways. So I am kind of back and forth with both of my relationships and what I was saying. So sorry for not making that.
No, but
clear.
how long were you married to your first husband?
We got married when I was 22 and then divorced by 25.
Okay, so 3
only,
years,
like
okay.
3 years. So
But
it
you guys
happened
had a
really
child
fast.
with,
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah, so we got engaged, and then a week later I found out I was pregnant. So technically I was pregnant because I was 6 weeks pregnant when I found out. So
okay.
technically I was pregnant before he even proposed to
Proposed to
me,
you.
but
he
we
didn't
found
know
out
that,
after.
right?
Exactly.
He just
yeah.
proposed because he
Mhm.
wanted to propose. Okay.
Exactly.
Oh.
And then a week later to the day I was like, I don't feel great. We should take a test. And it was stressful as like a 22-year-old. He's 2 months younger than me, so he was also 22.
Oh, okay.
And we're both just like, oh God, high stress. And, you know, we called our parents, and both of our dads had the same reaction. They're like, well, you know how that happens, right? And we're like, yeah, of course we know how that happens. So, and, you know, it was, I view relationships like stepping stones, you know, because there's things from my first husband that I liked and things that I didn't like, and there are things from, you know, my high school boyfriends that I learned or my college boyfriends that I learned, and it's like you pick and choose, and eventually the person you're with will be a culmination of all those things that you like in other people. And I found that to be true, because it's like he and I communicate really well. He used to be a women's therapist, so that kind of helps me.
Yeah, for sure.
But the fact that he even has that, you know, like we can communicate. You know, he can sing and play guitar, and I do my art, and we just can laugh together. And so there's just little things that I find in the relationships along the way that I'm like, oh, I like that, so I'll hold on to that and be like, I want that in my future partner. So every single person's been stepping stones, and with my first husband, like I said, it didn't work out, and I didn't want to teach my daughter what an unhappy relationship
Yeah.
was. And I told him that, and he agreed, and we
You
just
guys just went separate ways.
separate ways.
So
and
was it a peaceful like divorce?
Mhm.
Or, like yeah.
There was we never yelled at each other.
That's good.
Like once, and we really put her forward. We did like a parenting plan and just like put her before us.
That's
and,
good. Yeah.
And it's still about her. And my first husband like really grew up and like took on the reins of being a father, because when we were married, it was like I did everything.
You did everything, yeah.
And I was like
That's
his
how it
mom
is. Yeah.
too. And so it was really frustrating, but now with this partnership, it's like he has to take her for his time and be there for her. And then my husband, Chris, now is a very excellent stepfather, and
Aw.
he can like, she likes science, so she has all these scientific questions, and mom's an artist.
Yeah.
So mom doesn't know anything about all that stuff, but Chris, he knows all of the like space stuff or
So, yeah,
all the
so
science
he's very
things.
helpful, yeah.
So yeah, I'm like, that's a Chris question.
Have they met
Yeah.
the ex and the new?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was amicable. It was fine. Do they have a relationship? Like, because obviously they're both dealing with your daughter.
Yeah, not really.
Or they just go for you?
They go through me.
Okay, that's good.
So, I mean, because Chris, my husband now, he wouldn't care. He doesn't care. He's just like, whatever he wants to do as far as my first husband. But my first husband doesn't like confrontation, and he doesn't like awkward situations.
Oh, okay.
And like, he's really an anxious person. And knowing that about him, I'm just like, there's no need.
There's no need for them to be in the same. Yeah.
Yeah, so like they met per our parenting plan. So my ex-husband met Chris before Jamie, my daughter, ever did. So I wanted him to be sure that he was okay with Chris being around our daughter, and
that's
and
good.
making sure that it was like good timing, because we don't want random people in and out of her life. So
Exactly, yeah.
you know, Chris wasn't even really allowed to meet her until we knew we were going to get married, and that's also written into our parenting agreement too. So like, if he were to ever date somebody, they wouldn't be allowed to meet her until they're engaged.
Oh,
yeah,
that's a good.
because
That's actually.
I don't want people in and out. Like, we both are children of divorce, and so we didn't want people in and out, just like our parents kind of did. So
That's really good. That's actually
Yeah.
a good rule.
yeah.
Because I am divorced as well. I was married to my ex-husband for 8 years,
Mhm.
and we have 2 boys together.
Yeah.
And we do very much like co-parent, and I always tell him like I don't want anybody to meet my kids.
Mhm.
Just like, because I don't even need him to tell me this, because I already know.
Mhm.
Like, it just comes naturally for me. I'm not gonna introduce anyone to my kids unless I know that it's very serious.
Exactly.
And
And
but
that's
for him,
only-
he always wants to introduce. I'm like, boy, if you don't stop.
We've only been together 2 weeks, okay?
Literally,
I
and
need to
I'm like,
meet
and I
him.
know you. you're gonna be with someone else next week, so can you calm down? I don't want you. And I'm like, I don't want them to meet.
Yeah.
I'm like, and I talk to my kids too. I'm like, let me know if dad brings a girl around to meet you guys, because my oldest son goes like, you know, so that way I'm aware of all the things that goes on in this.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
Any advice you do want to give, like, people who are going through divorce?
Listen to yourself.
Yeah, listen to yourself.
Because, like, my dad really tried to bully us to get back together, because in that situation, my dad was his boss, too. And so it was, like, kind of weird, because my dad's in the Army. He joined the Army and then became a mechanic. And then my dad was his chief. So, like, his boss in the Army. So it was, like, a whole kit and caboodle, you know, and he was trying to get us to stay together for our kid. And, you know, no one really knows the full story, and no one really knows, like, ins and outs and all of the feelings like you do. And so if it feels really right to you, like, in your gut, like, just keep moving forward and do what you gotta do to keep yourself in a good, healthy space. Because, like, you know, I didn't really have anyone's support when I told them that I wanted the divorce. And honestly, what did trigger it was finding another woman's panties in his laundry. So, big trigger there, but even with that evidence, people were still like, no, you should stay, you should work it out. And I was just like, I'm good. He's made it abundantly clear that it doesn't need to move forward.
It's really hard to like keep going if you don't trust the person anymore, because everything that they do, you're gonna question it.
Everything.
And then all of a sudden they want to call you insecure. I'm like, was I insecure before, or did you make me start questioning things now because you cheated on me and stuff like that? Because my ex used to say that, like, it's like, don't be insecure. I'm like, huh? Do you know who I am? Do you see who I am?
Yeah.
Like, do I look like?
I'd be insecure.
I was like, did I give you any insecurity before I found out what you did, right? And then he was like, no. So I was just like, okay then. Yeah. We went through, like, for me, I went through, like, a hardship, like, with him during the divorce, because the way he went about it, it was so shady. And literally we had just moved here, like, we moved here to reconnect again and start over. And we just here for 4 months, and he was already doing shenanigans. I was just like, wow. So I really felt alone, because I literally, like, all my family is in Maryland. So I was, like, literally by myself. And I wasn't working. I was a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
While he has people.
I was too.
Because he was working, so he had his people at work and stuff like that. So for me, I was just, like, I literally felt alone. And, like, I didn't even talk to anybody about it. Like, I would just literally just, like, go for walks and cry my eyes out.
Yeah.
But then I feel like because of 2020 happened and everything got shut down, we were able to sit down and communicate better, because he didn't have a choice but to communicate with me, because it was like, you can't run away now. Who are you gonna go hang out with?
Yeah.
Because I don't want you to hang out with people. If you're gonna, like, don't go hang around with people and then come back to my kids, because like, literally, it was like during COVID, like,
you
people
don't
were
want to
dying
bring
and things
anything
like
back.
that. So we got to sit down and communicate, and I kind of pretty much, like, because I went to school for paralegal studies, so, like, I just kind of went back or divorce things, and I was just like, this is what I need, this is how it needs to be with the kids. And so we decided, we got divorced, we split, we lived by ourselves for a while. I was living by myself and he was living by himself, and just co-parenting with the kids. And then last year we decided to move back in again. But we're totally single. Like, I date whoever I want, he dates whoever he wants.
Yeah, I have a couple, like, aunt and uncle that have done that. Like, they're divorced for, like, 15 years, but now they live together and have, like, their grandchildren that they have custody over together. So
because I feel like
sometimes it works better.
It does work for us, because it's so much better for us. I'm like, I don't want to pay 2 rent like that. That's crazy to pay 2 rents when we have to take care of, like, 2 boys, and, like, it's not cheap to freaking, like, take care of kids here. And I don't, and plus, like, my parents are married. Granted, my dad passed away, but even when he passed away, he was still married, and his parents are married. I was like, why do we want to put our kids through things that we didn't even go through? So I told him, I was just like, let's live in a house all together, and then we'll do things our way. And I don't really care about what society says. I don't know, people judge me, but, like, one thing that I do when I start like a new relationship with anyone, like, the first thing I tell them is, like, hey, I do live with my ex, so that way you can understand like, either you move forward with me or you move away from me before any feelings or, like,
anything else
intertwined and stuff like that. Some guys are not okay with it, which is fine. I'm like, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're not about to, you can't even, a lot of people, like a lot of guys, I feel like you can't even come too close to like how my ex like supports me and things like that. And I'm not talking about supporting financially because I mean, granted, I do have alimony money, whatever. But yeah, but like when it comes to like how he supports me, like even emotionally, when he, like every time I go through breakups, you know who has to deal with this?
Him. So he probably already knows the playlist to put on, and he knows the wine that you like and the chocolates. So he supports you in the ways that...
Literally, yeah.
Yeah.
He's like literally my best friend. Like we talk about things like this, like, and I try not to talk to him about my relationship because I do feel like sometimes he gets jealous.
Mm-hmm.
But then he notices when I'm going through like a heartbreak or something didn't go right. He just tell.
Yeah.
It's like, Doreen, here it goes again. You're playing the same music again. I always play my sad songs.
Yes, and he's like, all right, I know where we're at.
You know, it's funny, one of my youngest son actually hates one of the songs that I play because he knows, he can just tell that I'm sad, and he's like, so every time he hears it, he like goes and turns off the radio.
He's like, no sad music.
No sad music today. But yeah, how is it like with your child? Because I'm like thinking of like for myself, like when it comes to my future, like I'm gonna get married again.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can't be in the streets anymore. Scottsdale, you're not for me.
No. Yeah, so my ex-husband, I mean, like, he doesn't want any kids of his own, like, at all, so we're not planning on having any. And
You mean your new husband, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
What did I say?
I don't know, I thought you said your ex-husband.
I don't know. Did I? I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Chris, my husband,
Yeah.
my happily married husband.
He doesn't want kids right now?
No, he doesn't want any kids, and I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah.
So I'm like, cool, one and done. She's kind of a handful herself. But like early on, because we got together when she was like 3, turning 4 soon, so she's really young. And I would do like day visits, so she wouldn't spend the night at his place even though we were engaged. She would just like get to see him for a couple hours here and there and like really warm up to him, and like, you know, he doesn't know how to deal with kids because he doesn't have any,
kids,
and like his brother just had his first kid too. Like 2 days before we got married, they had their first baby. So it's just like they haven't had babies in the family, and so it's been just a learning phase for him. And it's funny watching her because she just loves everybody, so she warmed right up to him, and she would give him hugs to goodnight and then went to bed. And suddenly she's like 4.5, and I'm like, okay, well, go say goodnight to Chris. And he's like, hug? And she's like, no, high five. And he's like, oh, okay. I'm like, no more hugs? It's fine, I just want to talk about it and see what's going on. And she's like, well, he has no hair because he is bald. He's completely bald. And I was like, okay, so you don't want to hug him because he's bald? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. So she doesn't have to hug him, you know, it's her own choice. And so now there's strictly high fives. And then like maybe 2 months later, he got a hat with Mothman on it, like the cryptid creature. And she's like, I love that hat. So if he wears that hat, he'll get hugs. So he's learning, you know, how to figure her out a little bit, and, you know, whatever she wants, hugs, high fives, you know, weird spinning high fives and stuff. He'll just be there for it. And, you know, he is really good with her because, like, there are times where I'm like, I have an interview or I'm going over to a friend's house. Can you hang out with her? You know, and he's like, yeah, I'll definitely spend time with her. And they play, he's taught her some VR games because we have the Oculus headset. And they have like, there's that game, what's that game that Josh and them play, the Fall Guy? That's like super bright, and they're like,
I don't know anything about games.
I don't know. I don't play many
Even though I have sons, I mean, like, I should know.
I feel like I should too, because it's like, it's cute because it's one of the only ones that they can play on his PlayStation together. So it's like super brightly colored, and he's like level 53 or something, so it's really hard to play. And she got frustrated, and then now she's better than him at it. So it's just like, it's really cool just to watch them build like their own relationship. And like, she'll ask him all the scientific questions, and they'll have discussions, or like, I'll come out in the morning, like I'm the first one up, but I'll be cleaning and stuff, and they'll be hanging out, and just because I'm a busybody, not because they don't help. I just like to do things. But they'll be in the backyard on the hammock, and I'll come out and they'll just be discussing like the stars or constellations or, you know, whatever question she has burning in her head that day. So it's really cool to watch him be a father figure without being an actual dad to her. You know, he's definitely stepped up and has been there, goes to plays and little school stuff for her, and been very there, you know, present. So it's been cool to see that.
Have you say you've cheated before, right? Have you ever cheated on other relationships other than?
No, so I did. I mean, the last time I cheated was with Chris back when I was like 19 to 20, because our relationship ended before my 21st birthday even started. So I was like 18 and 20 was really not that long of a time span, but you know, I did, you know, kind of had my hoe phase, if you, for lack of a better term, and you know, I did learn, and I got cheated on too, and I was like, fuck man, that feels really fucked up. And you know, having it happen to me, seeing the devastation that I caused in other people made me really like, I don't want to do that to somebody else ever again. And it did make me feel like a really bad person. I have no like way to, I just want to take responsibility for it. You know, like I have nothing to be like, well, it was because of this, or I felt like lacking in this way. It's just,
You just did it.
I just did it. And you know, you learn, you grow up, and you know, having my daughter and having a really toxic relationship with my own mother, I want to break that and, you know, raise her in a way where she can feel like she can come to me and talk to me about anything and not feel judged, or, you know, be able to have a good bond and feel like her mom's there, you know, and not be like distant and everything like that. So definitely she teaches me stuff all the time about relationships and how I want to present, because kids will always learn whether you think they're watching or not.
That's true, they do, yeah.
Yeah.